As coaches and as players, because leadership matters. And look at our country right now. Finally, we got some strong leadership. President Trump, Vice President Vance, and that whole administration. People, they believe it. It's about results. That's what everybody wants from their leaders. You know, all I've heard for all these years is, well, you can't get things done in Washington. You know, oh, that's how things are. That's how business works in Washington. And we got an outsider that came in and didn't accept business as usual up there. And look at the results we got. Look what he campaigned. Close the border. Done. And the big beautiful bill is going to keep it closed. Keep your taxes low. Done. And the big beautiful bill is even creating more tax benefits for hardworking Georgians and all Americans. We're going to lower inflation. 40-year high inflation from the Biden administration. And look what's happening. Prices down. They're still going to keep going. Look at gas today. Use America's military might to promote peace around the world. 6 peace deals. No other president has done anything like this, and there's more to come. But look, here's the problem. Here's the real problem. We got a senator in D.C. who represents our state who doesn't believe any of that, John Ossoff. And let me tell you something. He is a typical politician. He talks good, but this is another similarity in football. We have an old saying, your film is your resume. Because we've had a lot of players who look in the sky, and also has looked a big game, but we got a 5-year record of the Biden administration. He votes 98% to support and rubber stamp everything that happened. I don't care if it was the 40-year high inflation, he voted for it. The lawlessness that was going on in our communities, not back to law enforcement, the border just poured wide open, DEI, woke stuff, and what's happened since then? We can't forget about those things. Can't forget that happened, and he supported it. And now it resists any kind of progress we're making, especially all the common sense provisions in the big beautiful bill. That's right. He was against lowering your taxes. He voted. He was against creating more benefits, tips for no tax on tips, overtime, seniors. That's his game tape. That's his game tape. This is what's amazing. We got all this for you for 6 more years. That's what he's asking. And I don't know about you guys, but where I come from, when you deliver those kind of results, your ass is on the bench. And that's what we need to do to John Ossoff. And I'm going to tell you. And I'm going to say this. All right, just like we had an outsider as president come in, not accept business as usual in Washington, and deliver results, I think we need more of that in the U.S. Senate, and that's the approach I'm going to take. Put first.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Congressman Buddy Carter.
Well, thank you, and thank you for having us here today. It is an honor to be here. Before I start with some short comments, I always want to make sure that we recognize our let me tell you what else it did. It also made sure that we save one of the most important programs in our country, and that is the Medicaid program. I was chair of the health subcommittee. We were the ones who drafted that. And let me tell you, you know what we did? We said, look here, if you're an able-bodied adult and you're on Medicaid, you better be working. You better be working. We put work requirements in there. At least 20 hours a week, you gotta be working. None of this sitting on the couch getting this benefit. No. We got rid of waste, fraud, and abuse. We made sure that illegals are not going to be on Medicaid. We made sure of that. John Ossoff voted to allow illegals to be on Medicaid. That is ridiculous. We made sure that does not happen. What else did we do with the One Big Beautiful Bill Act? We secured our border. Ladies and gentlemen, our border is now secured, finally, thanks to Donald J. Trump. Apprehensions are down 97%. That's extremely important. We have to have a safe country, and he's made sure we've had that. What else have we done? We've also passed the rescissions package. We held back and rescinded $9 billion worth of spending that this and previous administration had spent. Guess what? John Ossoff, he voted against it. Now, folks, John Ossoff was born into a wealthy family, and there's nothing wrong with that. I hope all of you were born into a wealthy family. I was not. My grandfather was a sharecropper. My dad worked shift work in a paper mill. I was the first one in my family to go to college. Went to Young Harris College, then went to University of Georgia. Then went back and opened my own business. A hard-working American. I've seen what government regulations can do to you. We need to make sure, and that's what this president is doing. He's making sure that we are going to do away with some of the rules and regulations so the government doesn't get in your way of business anymore. And folks, let me be clear to you. This pin that I have on my lapel here, it's got two flags on it. It's got the United States and it's got Israel. I support Israel. John Ossoff voted against sending arms 2 weeks ago to Israel. He does not support Israel, and he's Jewish. I can't understand it. John Ossoff does not represent the values of Georgians. He represents the values of AOC and of Bernie Sanders, not of Georgians. He wants to see males participating in girls' sports. But who would want that? I have 6 granddaughters. I don't want a biological male in their locker room, but John Ossoff does. He does not work for you. He works for they, him. I work for you. I'm running for the United States Senate. I'm working my ass off to get rid of Ossoff. That's what we're going to do. One last thing. I want to thank Vice President J.D. Vance for being here. But I want to thank Donald J. Trump for what he is doing for America. America first. We need someone in the United States Senate who's going to support Donald Trump and his America First policies. I've done that in the House, I'll do it in the Senate. He is negotiating peace. That's why I nominated him for a Nobel Peace Prize, because he deserves it. He is the greatest negotiator of all times, and he is trying to get peace in Ukraine and Russia and in the Middle East, and he will do it. Thank all of you for being here. God bless each and every one of you, and God bless America.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Congressman Mike Holland.
Leadership and for just coming down to our state today. You know, I had the opportunity to meet J.D. Back when he was just J.D. On the campaign trail, probably about 3 years ago. I was up in Ohio campaigning. He was up there campaigning for the U.S. Senate, and it's odd how things worked out in 3 years. But I want to talk to y'all about something. And for those of you that don't know me, I am Mike Collins. Well, I'm just an old blue-collar, small businessman, conservative that was born, raised, lived, still live and work over in Jackson, Georgia, in Butts County. I happen to represent the 10th District in Congress, and I'll tell you something. Back in 2015, a businessman named Donald J. Trump came along, and boy, he was saying everything that we were thinking. Y'all, that's enough is enough of this mess. He took on the political class. He stood up for the workers, the American workers. And y'all, he put our country first. And here's what he did, the best thing that he did. He started running that place like a business up there. And I think we need more business people in Congress and in the U.S. Senate. And that big, beautiful bill that we passed not too long ago, y'all, it made history. That one bill changed the trajectory of this country, not just for weeks, months, or a couple of years, but for generations to come, for your great-grandkids, kids you'll never know. This was a huge historical bill. Matter of fact, it set small business on a path where they had clarity. At least they're not going to be taxed higher than corporations now. It also led them to be able to forecast with things like just bonus depreciation, which is so important to businesses like we have here. You know, it also gave American workers tax breaks. It made sure that the child care tax credit wasn't cut in half. It also helped our farmers. Well, it secured our border and made sure that these illegal aliens not flooding across our country in these thugs like the one that murdered Laken Riley in my district. It also helps rebuild our military. I'll tell you, yes ma'am, I'll tell you something. I believe in a strong military because I believe in peace through strength. Here's the personal thing about the big beautiful bill. This thing in there called the 529 savings plan. It just allows you to spend your money to send your child to get a technical degree like commercial airline pilot or aircraft mechanic certificate. That happened to be my personal bill. So we pushed, couldn't get into 118, but I got we got it in the big beautiful bill. But listen, here's the problem that we stand at right now. And that's open the Senate with this liberal, woke John Ossoff. No, he doesn't reflect Georgia values. No. And this guy is a trust fund kid. Never had a real job in his life. He doesn't know how to build a business, make decisions that have results. Matter of fact, he didn't vote for any of this. He doesn't stand for this. He comes down to the state of Georgia, he gives us lip service. And then what does he do? He goes back up there to D.C. and he votes with that woke, liberal, left-wing, controlling group that he's under.
Well, I don't
so you can get shit right, man. He is California's 3rd senator. By God, I'm going to tell y'all something. Come November 2026, we are going to fire John Ossoff. Two quick things. Number one, I'm sick and tired of these people out there saying we don't live in the greatest country in the world. Y'all, this is the best country in the world. We ought to be proud. We ought not walk around apologizing. We are the biggest and baddest in the block. This is America first through and through. If it's not good for Georgia, if it's not good for this country, you can count me out. Last thing. That Senate race comes up, you need to make sure that you send a proven, conservative workforce with a record of getting results who's going to stand shoulder to shoulder with President Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance to make sure that we continue this America First agenda and we get this country back on track. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones.
How we doing, Van Kennedy? here, and what a great crowd. And I want to thank the Brown family, Rex, Justin, and here. Where are you guys? Yeah, let's give them a applause. What an outstanding facility. I got to meet some of their folks that work here for them, and met a young lady that's been working here 30 years, another one 12 years, and you can tell that this is a family business that cares about their employees and cares about the American way. But born here, raised here, and also producing a great product right here in Fayette County, Georgia. Let's give them a big round of applause. Two congressmen that came before us, my neighbor, Mike Collins, and also former colleague, Buddy Carter right here. Also want to thank Coach Dooley. Coach Dooley, you know, remember this, he recruited me out of high school when he was at SMU. He didn't realize I didn't have much ability, so he didn't waste much time on me, but it's good to have both of them here. I know we have Secretary Leffler. Kelly, where are you? Kelly, she's here today. Let's give Secretary Leffler a big round of applause too as well. We have many State House and Senate members here. I know I say Senator John Kennedy, Tim Bearden. I know I saw Representative Houston Gaines here, Beth Camp. I know y'all, all the State House and Senate members, stand up and be recognized here real quick, please. Former Congressman Drew Ferguson right here. He used to represent this district very well here. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention my good friend Brian Jack, Congressman John Jack. If I missed anybody, I apologize. I came in the back door with how they usually let me in on places. You know, they won't ever let me in the front. But it is great to be here. I'm Burt Jones. I'm the Lieutenant Governor here for this great state, and I'm like the Brown family. I'm from a little small town over in Jackson, Georgia, and I have a family business there. I'm very proud of it, and I'm going to be running for governor because I want the great state of Georgia to continue to be a red state. So. We've had a lot of great strides here, a lot of things to be proud about. The #1 state to do business for the last 11 years. We've had unbelievable growth from an economic standpoint, from a population standpoint, and we want to keep going. And I could not be happier to have a partner right now in the Trump-Vance administration that we have right now here in our country. How about this? Let's get it up here. We have not had a city vice president come to this area of the state in 33 years, and so we want to thank Vice President Vance for being here today. I got to see him earlier today when he got off the airplane. He's excited about being here in Georgia. He's excited about promoting the big, beautiful bill, and because I'm excited because America's back, ladies and gentlemen. America's back. We're back on the domestic stage and putting America first, putting American jobs first, putting American industry first, and also securing our border. But more, also just as important, we're back on the world stage where people are fearing us through strength. As your next governor, and I hope I can earn all of y'all's support, well, the things I'm going to focus on are going to be very simple. We're going to try to keep this economy running. We're going to try to keep us the #1 state to do business, and I want to do that by incentivizing people, by eliminating our state income tax. That's all. We're going to prioritize education. We're going to prioritize skill-based education in our school system. We're going to prioritize public safety. I see my good sheriff from Coweta County there. We're going to be a law and order state. And we are going to be prioritizing Georgia workers and Georgia citizens here in this state. And we're going to promote companies just like this one today, because that is the backbone family businesses, small businesses is the backbone of our economy, and we want to incentivize them to strive here in the state of Georgia. And if I'm the governor, that will happen, I can promise you. So. This is a great opportunity, and I will tell you right now, somebody said, who's your competition? I said, I don't worry about competition. So I think you catch more fish watching your own court. That's an old Georgia term if you don't know that, by the way. But I'm not going to focus on that. I'm going to focus on earning your vote, and I was proud to have President Trump's endorsement last week. He said that, thank you very much. I've been with President Trump since he first came down the escalator way back in 2015, and I've never wavered from him. And he rewarded me by saying, you know, Bert, you've never asked for anything. When can I endorse you for governor? I said, now as good as any, Mr. President. So I appreciate that. But when the Vice President gets on stage, let's give him a great, warm welcome, a Georgia welcome, because it is such an honor to have him here today. I appreciate each and every one of y'all here. I appreciate the Brown family. I look forward to seeing y'all on the campaign trail. God bless y'all, and God bless the great state of Georgia. Thank you.
Sounds good. I don't know what else to say. Here, bring that out. Take honor of that.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the president of Alta Refrigeration, Eric Brown.
Is everybody ready for this? Oh yeah. As somebody would say, this is going to be huge. All right, guys. When you walk through the door of Alta Refrigeration, you walk into something different. An organization built on the following principles. We stand for integrity. We work with competence. Actually, we work with experts. And we lead with compassion. And all of these things put together equal one thing, it's trust. That's what drives the Alta team, and quite frankly, guys, that's what drives me. And at the heart of it all, it's all about our employees and their families. This company isn't just machinery and piping, it's people. People who show up, people who give their all, people who do the right thing every day. Thank you, guys. They're not just business values, they're American values. And these same values, our men and women in uniform fight for every single day. So if you've served in the U.S. military and are here today, please stand so we can honor you. You represent courage, honor, sacrifice, the best of America. Thank you guys for your service. At Alta, we are a team, and when you're part of a team, you look out for each other. That's the American dream. That's what Alta is all about, and that, my friends, is what's happening today here. So let's not forget our customers, the backbone of this industry. Hard-working American businesses running cold storage warehouses, the ones who make sure food goes from the farm to the warehouse to your family's table. And those tables, they're not just for eating on, they're for conversations about faith, freedom, and family. This is where American values are passed down, and this is why what we do is so important. And today, guys, again, honored and stoked. This is a monumental moment for Alta Refrigeration, a company that works tirelessly for its employees, its customers, and community, while also making safe and sustainable decisions to protect our future. Now, I want to introduce someone very, very special. Someone who understands this fight, someone who has been in the trenches, someone who has worked side by side with someone named Donald J. Trump. someone who is detailed, driven, dedicated to the people he serves. In my book, guys, this man is a rock star, and he is here with us today. Hold on. Ladies and gentlemen, this rock star is none other than our Congressman, Brian Jack.
Eric, for that incredibly kind introduction. And before I begin, let's offer our appreciation and gratitude to the entire Alta Refrigeration team for hosting us at this historic event. It has been 33 years since a vice president visited Fayette County. Some of y'all may remember. In 1992, February of 1992, Vice President Dan Quayle came to Fayette County. He visited Fayette County High School, and he went to Malier's Barbecue, for those of you who remember that wonderful place. In fact, Justin, Alta's incredible executive vice president, was there, and so too was our sheriff, Barry Babb. And 33 years later, we stand in one of the best places in our state to do business. The community we built, the community we have built and the economic environment that we have created continue to invite investment from all across the world, and I'd like to acknowledge some of the local elected leaders who are responsible for this success. Fayette County Sheriff Barry Babb. Fayette County Judge Jason Thompson and his wife Alicia Thompson. Peachtree City Mayor Kim Leonard. Peachtree City Mayor Pro Tem, one of my good friends, Clint Holland. Peachtree City Councilwoman and someone who, along with Nancy Holland, is very responsible for the success of this event, Suzanne Brown. Peachtree City Councilwoman Laura Johnson. Former Peachtree City Mayor Steve Brown. Former Peachtree City Mayor and my first boss in politics, Harold Logston. Former Peachtree City Councilman Mike King. Tyrone Mayor, just up the road, Tyrone Mayor Eric Dial. Tyrone Councilwoman Jessica Whalen. This gentleman is the Dean of the Mayors of Fayette County. We've got Woolsey Mayor Gary Lagus. State Representative Karen Mafiak. And my predecessor, former Congressman Drew Ferguson. Now, if I can also ask all of the brave men and women of our law enforcement to stand up so that we can acknowledge your service. Thank you for protecting our community. Fayette County is one of the best places in our state to do business, but Georgia is consistently ranked the #1 state in our country to do business. So I'd like to acknowledge some of the statewide elected officials who are here with us that have helped deliver that success. You just heard from him, our Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones, who was recently endorsed by President Trump to be the next governor of our great state, Burt Jones. We have with us Labor Commissioner Barbara Rivera Holmes. Public Service Commissioner Fitz Johnson, who is up for re-election this year. And my incredible colleagues in Congress, we'll start with Congressman Buddy Carter from Southeast Georgia. Congressman Andrew Clyde, a United States Navy veteran. Congressman Rich McCormick, a United States Marine Corps veteran. And Congressman Mike Collins, our neighbor whose father, Mac, ably represented Peachtree City for 12 years. Mike Collins. Thank you also to Coach Derek Dooley for joining us. It is an honor today to welcome Vice President J.D. Vance and two members of President Trump's cabinet, Administrator Lee Zeldin and Administrator Kelly Loeffler, to my hometown of Peachtree City. My career path started on Willow Bend Road at Peachtree City Hall, and that path eventually led me to the White House to serve the 45th and 47th President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, for 8 straight years. And when you work for President Trump for nearly a decade, you certainly learn a lot. And a lesson that I very much valued was the importance of promises made and promises kept. President Trump is the absolute best at this. He has single-handedly reoriented our electorate to present to elected officials a very simple equation. How many promises did you make and how many promises have you kept? And throughout my campaign for Congress, I made a consistent set of promises to each and every one of you. I promised to vote to make permanent the Trump tax cuts that were set to expire at the end of this year. I promised to vote to unleash America's energy potential by unlocking our vast lands for energy exploration. And I promised to vote to secure our southern border by providing the resources necessary to finally fund President Trump's border wall. And I, along with my colleagues here, delivered on every one of those promises by voting to pass and enact President Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill. I also promised to continue the historic deregulation that President Trump achieved during his first term. And one of my first actions in Congress was to fulfill this important pledge. Just down the road in Peachtree City is the corporate headquarters of Rinnai America Corporation. Rinnai builds tankless water heaters, and they do so at a state-of-the-art facility in Griffin. Their CEO, Frank Windsor, and their VP, Perry McGuire, are here in attendance today. And shortly after I was sworn in, Frank and Perry reached out, and they explained they had a problem. You see, on December 26, 2024, the day after Christmas, when all of us were with our families, the Biden administration imposed a job-killing regulation on tankless water heaters that would have effectively closed a factory in our district. Hundreds of jobs and millions of dollars in investment in our community could have been lost. Rinnai asked me for help, and I got to work. So in January, my colleagues and I introduced legislation that repealed that Biden regulation. In February, House leadership put our legislation on the floor, and it earned a bipartisan majority as it passed. In April, the United States Senate passed it, and in May, I stood by President Trump in the Oval Office as he signed into law our legislation that repealed a job-killing Biden regulation and saved hundreds of jobs in our community. Because of this success, the leadership here at ALTA reached out to me and said they had their own challenges they needed help navigating. And again, I got to work. You see, in 2023, the Biden administration imposed a sweeping set of accelerated regulations on the refrigeration industry. The regulations very specifically targeted the cold storage warehouses that are manufactured here in this facility. And if these regulations go into effect next year, the cost of production would be 2 to 3 times higher than what it is today. My team and I continue to work diligently with the incredible staff of President Trump's and Administrator Zeldin's Environmental Protection Agency to support the 150 hardworking Georgians at ALTA, and I look forward to delivering regulatory relief to each and every one of you today. When I ran for Congress, I didn't necessarily expect to be a congressional champion for commercial appliances. But deregulation across our community is a promise I made and a promise I kept. A final promise I made to you. the citizens of our district, was to invite America's leaders to our part of Georgia to see firsthand the incredible things happening in Georgia's 3rd Congressional District. During my campaign for the Republican nomination, we had Ben Carson, Jim Jordan, and Kari Lake visit. Last October, President Trump hosted an event in the 3rd Congressional District for the first time in his political career. In April, our wonderful small business administrator, Kelly Loeffler, joined me for a small business tour in Troup County. In May, the Secretary of Energy joined me at Renai's tankless water heater plant in Griffin to celebrate our legislative success. And today we welcome the 50th Vice President of the United States and 2 members of President Trump's cabinet to Peachtree City. The Vice President will be here soon, and when he arrives, let's give him our absolute warmest welcome and loudest welcome from Georgia's 3rd Congressional District. If you like tax cuts, safe streets, and cheaper gas prices, you're going to like what he has to say. And now, I'd like to introduce a very dear friend. She was an incredible United States Senator. She is a smart businesswoman who has devoted so much time and so many resources to so many of us in this room to ensure our state is positioned for a better future. And she is now a key member of President Trump's cabinet. Let us welcome the Administrator of the Small Business Administration, Kelly Loeffler.
Oh my gosh, thank you for packing the house for our great Vice President J.D. Vance. I am so honored to be with y'all. I actually flew in from Ohio this morning, our Vice President's home state, where I got to drive a dump truck this morning. That was the best time. Oh my gosh. First of all, I want to make sure that you know that your great Congressman, Brian Jack, here in the 3rd District, is fighting for you every day. I know he's been called a rock star. Now I want to call him the real deal. This guy's fighting for you. Let's give him a hand. I'll tell you someone else who's fighting for you, President Trump. In just 7 months, he has achieved so much. He's restored common sense to this country. He's closed the border. How about that? He's returned to Made in America. That's huge. He ended woke DEI and the Green New Deal. He got boys out of girls' sports. In fact, President Trump has done every single thing that the last administration said was impossible. Well, of course it's impossible when you're sleeping on a beach and the auto pen is running wild. President Trump has not only restored hard work to the White House, he's restored decency, and he's restoring strength and economic growth in this country. So whether it's drill baby drill or ending rampant Bidenflation, this president gets more done in 1 week than the last administration got done in an entire year. Yeah. He's just like all of you, the hardest working guy in the business. Now, if that's not enough, he spends his weekends negotiating trade deals, and he spends his weekends also negotiating world peace. Now, if he doesn't get the Nobel Peace Prize for that, he should definitely get the Peace Prize for restoring sanity and safety in Washington, D.C. And look, President Trump does it all for hardworking people like everyone that's here today. And that includes small business owners like the Browns here at Alta Refrigeration, small businesses that have been crushed by massive regulation, the threat of taxes, Bidenflation, and the list goes on and on. And it's why the president and congressional Republicans moved so quickly to pass the largest working family tax cut in American history. This is a bill that was for Main Street. It's for families, it's for students, it's for seniors. It's unleashing an unprecedented era of prosperity in this great nation. This economic agenda is rocket fuel for Main Street. I have seen it firsthand. I have been in 24 states so far, and I have talked to manufacturers who are spring-loaded for growth with 100% expensing for Made in America. I've talked to welders and mechanics who are going to take on more hours thanks to no tax on overtime. What a concept! Yes. I've visited with barbers. I've talked to waitresses. They're going to take on more shifts because of no tax on tips. And I have talked with working families right here in Georgia who are going to take home $10,000 more every single year because of the one big beautiful bill. You know, and this bill is proof that President Trump believes in the American worker. He believes in American industry, not in Washington bureaucracy, because the fact is, for too long, for way too long, the bureaucrats in Washington have told you that you work for them. Those days are over. This government works for you. So I'll wrap up with this. This is the bottom line. Every single congressional Democrat voted for a $4 trillion tax increase on you. That includes 2 senators from right here in Georgia. We won't forget those votes, but they won't stop this powerful economic agenda. That's right, because President Trump and Vice President Vance are only getting started. They understand that it's not about making sure Americans aren't left behind. It's about putting Americans first. And my friends, that is how you make America great again. Thank you. God bless you. Thank you, everyone. Shut up!
President J.D. Vance. Oh, yeah. Listen, it has been an honor to serve in that Trump-Vance cabinet and the administration over the course of 2025. We inherited a very big mess at the Environmental Protection Agency, but we are fixing everything. We've chosen to both protect the environment and grow the economy. What a concept. We could do both. Just over the course of this year, we have now canceled over $29 billion worth of grants, $18 million in real estate consolidations, $1 million in canceled media subscriptions. Sorry, guys in the back. $750 million saved in salary staff reductions. We are doing this with a zero-tolerance policy for any waste and abuse because we care about protecting your precious, hard-earned tax dollars each and every day that we are on this job fighting for you. The one big, beautiful bill that Congress just passed and President Trump just signed ended up rescinding billions of dollars in green slush funds that were going towards the friends of the last administration. Former Biden and Obama administration officials, unqualified recipients, self-dealing, conflicts of interest, reduced agency oversight, under the banner of climate alarmism through policies and through money. They have taken this agency and this government in the wrong direction. And each of us, we inherited our own messes, but we are motivated for you, understanding what the Trump-Vance mandate is, what the American public voted for last November, and we are committed to doing everything in our power every single day to fight for you and to make you proud. Is President Trump and J.D. Vance making you proud every day that they're in office? Oh yeah, it's an honor to serve alongside them. At the Environmental Protection Agency, we are doing more deregulation in 1 year than entire federal governments across all agencies, across entire presidencies. That's how much deregulation we're doing. We're doing the largest deregulation in American history, and proud of it. Last week I was in Iowa with our great administrator Kelly Loeffler, and we made an announcement along with the Secretary of Agriculture, Brooke Rollins, because we heard from Georgia's farmers and others about diesel exhaust fluid and the need to reverse the crazy derailment. So we made that announcement on behalf of Georgia and Iowa and across this country to reverse the deaf derangement. We're getting your water to flow more. We're getting your gas cans to flow faster. We're going to stop those annoying start-stop features on your car. We hear from the American public about what matters to you, and whatever matters to you matters to us, and we will fight hard for you every single day. Now, J.D. Vance has been an amazing leader, proud to call him a friend. He's a Marine. He's someone who would give up his life in defense of this country. He loves our flag. He cherishes our freedom and our liberty. Our nation is stronger because J.D. Vance is our vice president. Our nation is safer because J.D. Vance is our vice president. He is courageous. He is wise. He is battle-tested, and he is ready. He is our America First messenger, not just in his words, but also in his deeds. For all of us as Americans, when we go to sleep at night and we put our head down on the pillow, we're able to rest easier when we send the right people to office to fight for us. And your Congressman, Brian Jack, by the way, is doing an amazing job fighting for all of you. And we're grateful to Alta Refrigeration. And as I was just discussing with our vice president backstage, we at the Trump administration are heeding the call of Alta Refrigeration. See, there was a new regulation called the Technology Transition Rule that came out, and they were getting rid of all different kinds of access to refrigerants where costs were going up, supply was going down, it was costing more to be able to fix that system. And Alta Refrigeration and grocery stores and the semiconductor industry and residents all across America were speaking about the impacts of this rule. So once again, here we are every day, another decision, another dollar, another moment, another opportunity to fight for you. We're here to announce that in the coming days, we will be releasing a proposal that will fix this mistake of the technology transition rule. We will deliver on what Alta Refrigeration has been asking for and demanding from this federal government, and we will deliver for Georgians who are tired of being sick and tired of people who aren't representing them. Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you a warrior, a patriot, a leader, a friend, somebody who we can trust, somebody who fights for us when we see him fighting on our behalf, but also is fighting hard for us when we don't see him in front of us. Ladies and gentlemen, all day, every day, J.D. Vance and his team understand what's at stake for America. He is doing his part. The Trump administration is doing their part with the great help, the fearless leadership and determination of this man, our next speaker. Give it up for our great Vice President, our Marine, J.D. Vance.
Thank you. Please, it's great to be in Peachtree City, and I gotta say, you guys have got a hell of a congressman. How much do we love Brian Jack here in the 3rd District of Georgia? Thank you, Brian. Now, we got a few other people I want to thank, of course, the great EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin. Lee, thank you so much. And proud Atlanta native Kelly Loeffler, thank you for all you're doing at the Small Business Administration. All right, you guys are lucky to have a great Trump-endorsed Lieutenant Governor Bert. Bert, good to see you, man. How we doing? Bert greeted me on the tarmac today. He had been on the tarmac, I think, for a few minutes because he was sweating bullets. And that hot Atlanta sun, I felt bad for him. But Bert, thank you. You're going to make a great governor for the state of Georgia. And we're with you every step of the way. Now, I understand we got a little preview. This is my idea. A little preview of the Senate race here in the great state of Georgia. How'd they do, ladies and gentlemen? Do good? Well, let me thank Coach Derek Dooley. Derek, thank you for being here. Let me thank Representative Buddy Carter. Buddy, thank you. Good to see you, man. And of course, the great Mike Collins. Mike, thank you for everything that you do. It's good to see you, man. Now, here's the thing. We're at a great American facility. I want to thank these great workers behind me. I feel bad for these guys because they got to stand up the whole time I'm talking. You guys get to take a seat, and boys, strap in, because we're going to be up here for about 3 hours. You give a politician a microphone, and it's always tough. Boys and girls. We've got a few ladies back there, too. But here's the thing. This facility, this manufacturing plant represents what makes America great. Because the products that you build, the jobs created here, the ingenuity and the technology and the development and all the things that actually make America run are built right here at this incredible facility. So thank you to Alta, thank you to the workers, and thanks to the people who make this facility run. Now, I heard something before I went on, because there's this big refrigerator right behind me, right? And somebody told me it was 13 tons, is that right? That's a big refrigerator. Now, am I also right that a lot of the products that you guys make go into Chick-fil-A? Is that right? Okay, I know that's a great Atlanta company, but as a customer, a frequent customer at Chick-fil-A, I've got a personal connection because you guys make a great American company run, and that's what I love about this country. When you guys make a great product, it enables more great products to be made. That creates more jobs for our people, that creates more American innovation, and it creates more prosperity for the American worker. And I'm here, of course, as a representative of the President of the United States that has done more for the prosperity of the American worker than any president in a generation. So can we give it up for President Donald J. Trump, because I know he's watching. And I know what the president ran on, and what the president cares about is building things right here in the United States of America. It's another reason why I'm proud to be at Alta today. Because for a generation in this country, we had American presidents and American political leaders, and let's be honest, folks, it wasn't just Democrats, it was Democrats and Republicans who would ship our jobs overseas, close our factory doors, and do not a damn thing for the American worker. So how nice is it in Washington, D.C. to have a government that is going to protect your jobs, that's going to fight for this facility and say, very simply, if you're building it here, if you're making it here, if you're producing it here, we are going to give you, and already have given you, a big fat tax cut. That's a good thing. But if you make it overseas, if you try to do something with a foreign worker as opposed to an American worker, if you try to ship our great American jobs and great American factories overseas, then you are going to pay a big fat tariff before you bring that crap back into the United States of America. And that's what President Trump's economic policies are all about, my friends. It's the carrot and the stick. We want to make it easier to build in America. We want to make it harder to build overseas. We want to make it easier to rely on our great American workers, because we got a lot of them. American businesses ought to employ American workers. And we want to make it harder to employ foreigners to take those jobs from the Americans who deserve them. And most importantly, if you're working hard every single day right here in the United States, or if you're building a business right here in the United States, you ought to have a tax code that rewards you instead of punishes you. And that's what happened when we passed the Working Families Tax Cut just a couple of months ago. And of course, Brian Jack was a critical part of that. So you should be proud of your congressman. Now, what does this law mean for you? What this law means for you is that your take-home pay is going to go up over $10,000 over the next few years. What that means is that if you're working an hour of overtime, the federal government is going to keep its money the hell out of your pocket. Because if you're working hard, the government ought to leave you alone. Ain't that the truth? Do we have any single moms out there? Any single dads, any people who work hard every single day? I had a single mom, and for a time my mom worked at a restaurant. She waited tables, like a lot of folks out there. And you know what we did in this new law? We said that if you're working hard and you're making your income via tips, we are not going to tax tips anymore, because we want to give everybody out there that's working hard for those tips a little bit of relief. And that's what the Working Families Tax Cut did. No matter where you are in this country, if you're working hard and play by the rules, you ought to have a government that stands up for you instead of fights against you. That's why we increased the child tax credit in the Working Families Tax Cut. That's why we eliminated taxes on overtime and on tips. And that's why we had the biggest tax cut for families that this country has ever seen, because we believe that you ought to keep more of your hard-earned money. And we believe that if you're busting your rear end every single day, the government ought to make it easier for you and not harder for you. And that's why we fought for that legislation. Now, I am just a vice president. I'm just a lowly politician, but I'm going to try my hand at prophecy today, ladies and gentlemen, because I see the future of the state of Georgia, and in about a year, you are not going to be able to turn on the television without Senator John Ossoff pretending that he supported the Working Families Tax Cut when in reality, he voted against it. And I saw a TV clip of him today. You know why he said he voted against no taxes on overtimes? You know why he said he voted against no taxes on tips? You know why he said that he voted to raise your taxes by the biggest amount in a generation in this country? Because he's allegedly worried about people getting kicked off their health care. Well, you know what? The President of the United States made a promise, a sacred promise, that the only people who are going to lose access to health care are illegal aliens who shouldn't be in this country to begin with. Because I happen to believe that Medicaid belongs to American workers and American families. I happen to believe that when you are struggling in this country, we're generous people and we want to help you. But we want to help the people who have the legal right to be in the United States of America. So it's not about kicking people off of health care. It's about kicking illegal aliens the hell out of this country so that we can preserve health care for the American families who need it. And that's what the Democrats never talk about. That's what they'll never tell you. They'll say, well, Republicans want to do this to health care. They want to do that. They want to do all these terrible things. When in reality, if you look at what the Democrats have done, what they've tried to do is to allow millions and millions of illegal aliens into this country, to give them benefits that ought go by right to American citizens, and then to attack Republicans when we dare to stand up for the American citizens who have the right to be here. So when you watch those TV commercials in a year, and John Ossoff, I tell you, he's going to pretend to be a reasonable moderate. He's actually going to run TV advertisements, I promise you, because I ran against a guy like this in the state of Ohio, where he says that he supported President Trump's agenda. But in reality, while John Ossoff pretends to be a moderate when he comes to Atlanta, he is a far left liberal in Washington, D.C., and that's the only place that it actually counts if you're a United States senator. So why don't we ask John Ossoff, why did you vote to raise taxes? Why did you vote to keep illegal aliens on Medicaid? Why did you vote to bankrupt Medicare? Why did you vote to make sure that people who work overtime and earn their income from tips pay as much to the federal government as possible? And the simple answer is because Jon Ossoff, whatever he pretends to be in his television commercials, he doesn't give a damn about the 3rd District, and he doesn't give a damn about the people of Georgia, but we do, and we're going to fight for you every single day. Let me just leave you, my friends, with a final thought. I want to thank you all for being out here, and again, thank the folks behind me, the great workers of this facility. And I'll take a few questions. Should I take a few questions from the media? Okay, I'll do that. So we'll take a few questions from our great reporters, hopefully some local reporters back there, but I'm sure some national fake news as well. But, you know, I went to Union Station in Washington, D.C. yesterday. Anybody here ever been to Union Station? Okay. It's a beautiful, beautiful building, really a monument to American greatness. I was walking around, I was looking up at it, these beautiful high ceilings. It looks like something out of a fairy tale. And I remember that 2 years ago, when I took my kids to Washington, D.C.'s Union Station, I actually had a crazy person screaming at my 3-year-old kid. Because for some reason, and I never understood this, American leaders decided it was compassionate to allow people to fester on the streets, yelling at our young families instead of giving them the medical care that they need and getting them off the streets, which, by the way, makes it easier for us to all enjoy these great public spaces in our country. And I haven't been to Atlanta in a little while, at least now with the Secret Service detail. I haven't walked around Atlanta in a little while, but I bet that as great as Atlanta is, and as beautiful of an American city as it is, there are places in Atlanta where you wouldn't take your family today. Is that correct? Just like in Washington, D.C., the national capital of the greatest nation in the history of the world, there are no-go zones where you would not take a young family or you would not take young children. And that's true, I'm sure, all across the state of Georgia, all across our country, because our leaders decided that they would make our streets safe for criminals instead of safe for the people who pay our taxes and keep our communities going. And I think that of all the things that I'm most proud of the president, the thing that I'm most proud about is that he finally put the government to work for the people who actually make this country function and run in the first place. We're cutting taxes for American taxpayers. We're securing the border. We've got 99% reduction in illegal border crossings in this country because we got a president who empowered Border Patrol to keep us safe. And we got a president who's standing with law enforcement to make it easier to clean up our streets, to make them safe for our young families. If you're a person, I don't care what your political party is, but if you're a family and you want to take your kid to a nice meal in downtown Atlanta, it's about a 40-minute drive, take your kid to a nice meal in downtown Atlanta, you ought to be able to without being harassed by a criminal. We got to take America's streets back for the American people, and that's what the President of the United States is doing every single day. And as a person who grew up in a family where we often struggled with money, you know, it is never the rich people that lack public safety in this country. When we go to war against our cops, when we flood the border with illegal immigration, when we close down great American factories, it is the people the Bible calls the least of us that struggle the most and hurt the most. So I'm proud to be here as your vice president. I'm proud to be here as a representative of President Trump. Thank you. But I'm most proud that we have an administration that is making it easier, whether you're rich or poor, to walk down the street with a semblance of public safety. I'm most proud that we're fighting for the jobs of the people behind me and the jobs of every single working person in this country, and we're fighting to make sure that you pay low taxes instead of a bunch of garbage to the federal government. I'm proud that we serve an administration that cares more about American citizens and our public safety than giving Medicaid and Medicare to illegal aliens, which is what Jon Ossoff wants to do. In other words, I am proud that the kind of family that made me who I am finally has a representative and a fighter in Washington, D.C. I promise you, we'll keep on fighting for you every step of the way. God bless you, and thank you for having me. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you. I don't think I'm going to get the same chant from the fake news media, do you? But we'll let them ask some questions anyway. Let's take a few questions back there from the rafters. I would prefer to take at least a few local media questions first, and then we can get to the national folks. Semper Fi, sir. God bless you. I think we have a microphone back there. If we could pass around. Sir, go ahead.
Mr. Vice President, I'm Richard Elliott with WSB-TV here in Atlanta. You've heard the criticism from Democrats that making the Trump tax cuts permanent comes at a cost to Medicare, SNAP benefits, and other things like that. How would you answer some of those criticisms by the Democrats?
Yeah, well, I appreciate that question. Look, there are a couple of responses to that criticism. First of all, the only people that we say should not get free government health care benefits are illegal aliens and those who refuse to try to even look for a job. It's very common sense. We want, and look, we are going to bankrupt this country if we keep on giving the people's benefits, the people's Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security benefits to illegal aliens who have no legal right to be in this country and never paid into the system to begin with. That is never the design of those programs, is to give them to every person all over the world. They ought by right to belong to the American citizens who paid into those programs to begin with. And that's what we're fighting to make sure happens. And the second response I'd say to that is look, we did a lot in this legislation. Brian worked on it. The other representatives here worked very hard on this to make sure that a lot of our rural hospitals are struggling because of some of the policies of the Biden administration. So what we did is we put a lot of resources and a lot of changes in regulations to make it possible for our rural hospitals to stay open despite what the Biden administration did to them for 4 years. So our policy is very simple. Whether you're in a big city or a small town, we're going to fight for your access to health care. Whether you're an American citizen who's been here for 70 years or an American citizen who's been here for 2 years, we're going to fight for your access to a government that serves you. But if you're an illegal alien, you do not deserve government-paid health care benefits. You need to get out of our country, and that's as simple as that. Next question.
Mr. Vice President, Greg Bluestein with the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Thanks for being here. I have a follow-up to Richard's great question on those health care funding cuts. There are Georgia Republican leaders who are legitimately concerned that more than 100,000 people could be knocked off the Medicaid rolls, not just people who are here undocumented or illegally, but people who are working class, who are struggling to get their health care. What message do you have for state Republican leaders on what they should do to reconcile those issues?
Well, the first thing I'd say is the state Republican leaders and frankly state Democratic leaders, if you're worried about American citizens losing access to health care, the Trump administration always has an open door policy. And we worked with a number of our colleagues, Democrats and Republicans, at the federal legislature, but also at the state level, to make it possible to ensure that American citizens have access to the medical benefits that they need. It's as simple as that. So you're always going to have an open door. Now, we understand that reforms are complicated. Sometimes this stuff takes time to work itself through the system. Many of the changes in the working families tax cuts to Medicare, or excuse me, to Medicaid, you're not going to see that stuff. It's not even, some of it doesn't even go to effect for 6 or 7 years, in part because we want to give enough time to work with people to make sure that American citizens do not lose access to those critical benefits. So if you look at the way we design the law, if you look at the way that those reforms are implemented, and if you look at all the other things that we're doing, we want to work with people to make sure that American citizens get what they're entitled to. What we do not want is people who have no legal right to be here, to benefit from the generosity of the American taxpayer, and to bankrupt those programs. So long as you're willing to work with us on on those goals. We'll work with anybody, whether you got a D or an R next to your name, because we care about this country. We want to make sure it's secure and healthy. Next question. We had a couple hands back here, but okay, we got a school back there.
We do.
Okay, well, let's get them a microphone.
My name is Virgil Garrett. Thank you, Mr. Vice President.
Of course, thank you.
I'm here with the Central Educational Center, CCS TV. The CEC is a college and career academy focused on training high school students to enter technical and trade industries. Can you tell us how the big, beautiful bill will impact us and our prospective jobs? And also, how is the administration focusing on schools like ours?
So tell me, did you say your name was Virgil? Virgil, tell me a little bit more about your school.
Central Educational Center, we have classes focusing on trade and other industries. We have audio, video, aviation, cosmetology, dentistry, and students have the option. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. He asked me, Virgil, you asked me to comment on the school. I figured I should learn a little bit about it. I should learn a little bit about it before I commented on it, but I appreciate the clarification there. I mean, our proposal and our principle in the Trump administration is quite simple. We want Americans to be able to pursue their American dream. Whether that means going to a trade school or going to a four-year education, going to the military, we want to give you as many options as possible. And what happened for a long time in this country is that you had both parties, both sets of leaders saying, no, 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 no. The only pathway that we're going to fund, the only pathway we're going to help you with is if you want to get a four-year degree. If you want to get a four-year degree, great. But if you want to be a plumber or an electrician or a pipe fitter, your government ought to fight for you too. And that's exactly what we want to make happen. And I do, you know, Virgil, part of that is policy. Part of that is making sure that things like Pell Grants and other federal benefits, they don't pick and choose, they don't discriminate against our great trade schools. But part of that is leadership. And I think it's important for those of us who are in positions of leadership to say that, you know, there are so many great careers that require you to use your hands and your head at the same time, where you can earn a great living, you can build something great for your fellow citizens and people in your community. We're not going to have enough housing. We're not going to have plumbing that works. We're not going to have lights that turn on unless we've got enough people going into our trade schools. We got to have more kids doing it, more young people doing it, because they're the ones building the American dream of homeownership. They're the ones building the future, and we're going to fight for you every step of the way. Thank you for your question, Virgil. And let's do a few more questions here, then I'm going to have to hit the road. Sir. Where have we got a microphone?
Vice President, Raul Bally, WABE Radio here in Atlanta. Wanted to ask you about something, your final topic on safety. Do you see the administration putting soldiers in the city of Atlanta?
Well, look, what we've done is we have focused on Washington, D.C. because it's a federal city under our jurisdiction, but we certainly hope that whether it's Atlanta or anywhere else, people are going to look around and say, we don't have to live like this. It turns out if you just go and arrest the bad guys, you can have cities and streets that are safe again. And we hope that people see what we're doing in Washington, D.C. and follow our example all across the country. I'm a big fan. Look, I grew up in a small town. I love our beautiful countryside and our rural areas, but I love our big cities too. And I want you to be able to go shopping or go and get a nice meal with your family without the fear that you're going to get mugged, or even worse, because you had the audacity to take your family out for a day in one of our great American cities. We don't have to live like this. All we need is politicians who actually care more about public safety for American citizens than they do for violent criminals. In Washington, D.C., in 10 days of what Donald Trump has done in Washington, D.C., did you know armed robberies are down 55% in our nation's capital? It's amazing. You know, murders in Washington, D.C. are down over 35%. Again, that's in a week and a half of just taking crime seriously. And there's something, you know, Democrats had this weird sickness in the head 5-6 years ago where they decided that all law enforcement was racist. You know who suffers the most, especially in our urban areas, when you don't allow the police to enforce the laws against bad guys? It is the good citizens, disproportionately black Atlantans who suffer the most from high violent crime, because you've got more, or at least a disproportionate number of black Georgians living in Atlanta compared to other places. So when you empower police to prosecute violent criminals, that's not racism, that's empowering everybody, black or white, to live safely in their communities, and that should be the God-given right of every American citizen to walk down the street in safety and comfort. God bless you, sir.
Doug Reardon with Atlanta News First. I know you're here to talk about business and manufacturing. I wanted to ask you about the spending bill's impact on individuals. There was a nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office report that came out last week showing that the bottom 10%, the poorest Americans, would lose about $1,200 a year on their income, while the top 10%, they would add about $13,000 annually to their income. Can you justify for those poorest Americans those differences?
Well, first of all, the Congressional Budget Office, sometimes they put out reports that are absolutely atrocious, and I think this is a good example of a very atrocious report. The most important thing for people who are living at the bottom of the income ladder is that they not pay taxes on their income sources. So if you're working hard and you're working overtime, you're going to get a big fat tax cut. If you're working at a restaurant or some other business where you're earning your wages primarily through tips, you're going to get a big fat tax cut. And most importantly, the president's economic policies are going to prevent your job from being shipped off to Asia or to Mexico. That is the very best thing for people at the bottom of the income ladder. And that's why we have the economic policies that we do. If you go back 50, 60 years, what is the fastest period for blue-collar wages rising in the United States of America? It is the time that we are living in right now, thanks to the economic policies of Donald J. Trump. You know what the worst thing for people at the bottom of the income ladder is? It's when you flood the country with millions upon millions of illegal aliens and force our poor Americans to compete for jobs against low-wage foreigners who don't even have the legal right to be here. That is what destroys the wages and the livelihoods of people who are struggling in this country. We want to empower them to live the American dream. That's why we're protecting their jobs, lowering their taxes, and fighting to make their country safe again. And I'll do one more question.
Sir, I'm George Cheedy. I write for The Guardian. I live in a small town, less than 1,000 people. I'm also a military veteran. I am a DINFOS-trained killer just like you.
Thank you for your service, George.
In 1996, in Atlanta, when the Olympics was coming through, Atlanta very famously rounded up people who were homeless on the street downtown, bought them bus tickets, and sent them out of town and often out of state. There's a lot of negative sentiment about that later. It's one of the things that people remember. I am concerned that in the press to eliminate encampments in DC, something similar to that is happening. What is happening to the people who are homeless, often poor, often have a mental health problem or a drug problem? Where are they actually going when these encampments are being broken?
So first of all, George, I was 12 years old when the 1996 Summer Games happened in Atlanta, so I don't remember exactly the background there. I was worried about football and fishing and doing all the things that a 12-year-old in southwestern Ohio was worried about. But I think that the question betrays a certain misunderstanding of what we're trying to do and what is the nature of real compassion. I talked earlier about my son being harassed at Union Station a couple of years ago. Now, first, as a father, you have some vagrant screaming crazy stuff. I'm sure a lot of us have had this experience where you have some vagrant screaming crazy stuff at your 3-year-old. As a father, my first reaction is grab my son closer, make sure that he's safe. Okay, then you realize the person's not going to maybe run and charge and attack us. We'll just keep our distance. But then you think, wait a second. Why have we convinced ourselves that it's compassionate to allow a person who's obviously a schizophrenic or suffering from some other mental illness? Why is it compassionate to let that person fester in the streets? You see them, You know, a lot of them have clear mental health issues. A lot of them have clear physical health issues. They're not properly clothed. They're not properly cared for. Some of them are wasting away. The compassionate thing is to have people who are having mental health crises, to get them in treatment, not to let them sit on the streets and yell at our people while they're walking by. And so the president actually signed an executive order to make it easier for some of these people to get access to mental health treatment. And I don't know for the life of me what happened in this country where we decided that the compassionate thing was to let somebody fester on the streets instead of get the treatment that they need. It's very simple to me. And I don't know why we accept it as parents and as grandparents and as people who just want to walk down the street in comfort, why we accepted that it was reasonable to have crazy people yelling at our kids. You should not have to cross the street in downtown Atlanta to avoid a crazy person yelling at your family. Those are your streets, paid for with your tax dollars, and you ought to be able to use them like any other citizen of this country. So let me close. I know I said that was the last question, so let me just close with this thought. You know, there are a number of things I could say about President Trump's leadership and a number of things I could say about what we're trying to accomplish in the Trump administration. Put very simply, we're trying to make America great for Americans again. When you hear that phrase, make America great, we want you as a taxpayer, as a worker, as a business owner, we want you to be able to enjoy the incredible benefits and bounty of the United States of America. This country was built by your grandparents, by your parents, by your forebears. You ought to have the right to live a good life in this country that wouldn't even exist were it not for the hard work of so many generations who came before us. They didn't put in that work. They didn't build this great country. They didn't carve the greatest civilization in the history of the world out of a wilderness so that their ancestors and their descendants could see it fall into disrepair. They did not build, look at Atlanta. It's a beautiful city. It's one of the most beautiful cities anywhere in the world. The people who built Atlanta did not build it so that you would not be able to walk down the streets of Atlanta safely at night. They built it so that you could enjoy it. They built this country so that we could make an even greater America out of it. And the policies of the Trump administration are meant for one simple reason: to empower you to live a great life in this country that all of us love. We've got a lot of work done in the last 7 months. We're going to do a hell of a lot more work in the next 3.5 years, and we're going to fight for you every single step of the way. God bless you. Step of the way. God bless you, and thank you for having me here in Peachtree City.